Welcome to the Badlands, a place I don't think I or anyone I'm going to talk to expected to be. My name is Jarrod, and for the last 9 months, I've been an out-of-work ad agency senior suit. My last role was the Regional Client Service Director at Grey Singapore, delivering work around Southeast Asia and India. I returned to London last year, fully imagining I'd been in another agency fairly quickly, as had been the case over the last 2 decades, but not so much this time. So I found myself wandering the Badlands. In these 9 months, I've noticed a few odd things in our industry, and I've also noticed a surprising amount of ex-colleagues and clients all in a similar position to me. So I thought it might be helpful and maybe interesting to talk to some of these people, to see how they're doing, discover their experiences, understand what they're looking for, and maybe shine a light on them and their talents. But most importantly, check in with them, as it's a lonely experience being in the Badlands. So, chat number 2. Please welcome David Byrne. David and I have never worked together, but we both know a lot of the same people, and I've worked with quite a few characters over the last 20 years, all of whom will remain nameless in this chat, but you know who you are. David was an agency guy, but his last few roles have been client side. Even so, he finds himself in the Badlands, which is, what we're here to talk about. So, David, how are you? Thank you for doing this, and how are you doing, sir?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm excited about doing this. It's interesting.
You were out last night at a networking thing. You feeling all right today?
I am. I was out at Interesting 2024, curated by the amazing Russell Davis, where I heard 10 people present for 10 minutes about 10 different things that included how to make matcha tea, a very famous interior designer, how to do composting at home, kitchen sounds, old and new. I mean, it was truly random. So I recommend it to anyone listening to this. Go to Interesting. They only do it once a year, but it's at the Conway Hall and it's incredible.
Isn't it weird? Like some of the things that we're doing in these weird downtimes in between roles, you get to look around a little bit more than when you're kind of just head down looking at your desk and your email for your day. So that sounds cool. So, David, we're here to chat about why you're in the Badlands. So I think the first thing to do is give people, the listeners, these millions of listeners that we have, give the listeners a bit of a David Byrne summary, your career summary. Where did you start out and where were you most recently, and how come you find yourself in the Badlands?
Super quick. I started as a grad recruit at a DDB agency, worked there for 2 years, and I was excited to get into advertising, and then realized, hang on, this is not advertising. And then went one day randomly through a recruiter. That's how it used to work back in the day, probably major players or the talent business, and went to chat to St. Luke's and walked into this crazy old toffee factory on the Euston Road with these random people moving around, pets everywhere. And they said, would you like to come and work with us? And it was a co-owned business. It was a remarkable place full of fascinating individuals working on these massive brands. It was Agency of the Year, I think, when I went there. And that's basically where my brain was founded, working on IKEA and HSBC and School Disco and a bunch of other brands. And just learning on the job, really.
And then, and from there, you kind of kept in the agency world until you made a switch. So what made you make the move into marketing? And then, where were you the last few roles?
I think just in advertising, you kind of run out of track unless you're going to run an agency and start your own agency, and you need a decent amount of money and good contacts behind you in order to do that.
Yep.
I kind of noticed that I was the oldest one at the Christmas party and stuff like that. I need to change. So I thought, well, I've got these skills and experience. Did the mini marketing MBA. Spoke to a few people that I like, and they said, "Oh, why don't you go client side?" And then, so a friend, actually, an ex planning lead, was involved at Aviva in Hoxton Square in the digital garage, is called, and said, they need some help with the advertising over here. Can you come in? And it was an amazing place, not least because I associate Hoxton Square with the Blue Note and clubbing in the late
Yeah.
90s. And now it's like it's a digital campus for a FTSE 100 financial services business. So that was a bit of a surprise, a change, but right on the other side of the square. So it was amazing because there's a bunch of ex-agency people. There was a bunch of really smart marketers in there doing something that I suppose for Aviva was quite radical at the time. So ended up working in marketing, I suppose.
Nice. And then, so you were at Aviva for a good few years, and then where were you most recently?
I was at Aviva for 4 years under 3 different chief execs. So actually my job was broadly the same, but under 3 different chief execs and 3 different restructures. I was in different buildings, I was in different teams, and the culture was very different. And then latterly, for the last 18 months until February, I was working with the wonderful people at Wealthfi down in Penarth near Cardiff, which is a wholly owned now Aviva fintech scale-up, I think is the correct term.
Quite a change from Hoxton Square.
Yeah, but I tell you, if you haven't been to Penarth, I strongly recommend it. It's a beautiful pier. I used to go running when I'd go to meetings, so I'd go running and stay in an amazing family-owned Italian restaurant and hotel, and I got to work with amazing, beautiful, lovely people from Cardiff. I had a great team who were just funny and interested, and I worked into a brilliant CMO called Sally Allen as well, who was sort of the matriarch of the team, and it was brilliant. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it sounds cool. So then, how come? What happened? Obviously, as much or as little detail as you want, but so how come you find yourself in the Badlands now? And how long have you been in between roles and looking for your new role? Because I think that's the bit that's clearly bubbling up when I speak to people, that there's this new situation that we're all dealing with where it's taking much longer than it used to. And I think there's clearly a national situation, and there's clearly an employment issue across the board. But I think for a lot of us, 20 years in, it's the first time we've kind of ever experienced this. So what happened at your last place, and how long have you been searching for your new role now?
Yeah, well, as I say, there were 3 different chief execs in my time at Aviva, and I think it's 12, 13 different line managers. So there's a restructure every year, and you sort of keep going, right? And then I was restructured, and then ended up at Wealthfi, and then finally there were no more roles. I ran out of track there, so I was actually doing a mat leave, but ended up staying for 18 months, which is great. But in the end, they went, "You know what, David? Thank you, but this is enough now." That Rosie had come back. It's just. Can you go away? It's been nice. So
get back to London.
Then back to London, and so now since February, you're kind of looking around, and you're right. I don't know whether it's the algorithm or whether it's some sort of weird confirmation bias, but I do seem to know a lot of people. I mean, two of my 12 or 13 bosses at Aviva are kind of currently looking, and they've been looking for longer than me. And it's weird because they're both really good as well. So there's something going on underlying in the economy. But our job is to just outperform, as with any brand, right? Any challenge brand, outperform what's going on, cut through, be better.
Yeah, for sure.
So
100%.
That's what I'm doing.
And so you've been looking since February, and I guess you must be working with recruiters and doing your own kind of day-to-day snuffling and hunting and networking. And is that how you're approaching it now? Like, how is it different to previous times you've tried to look around and move places? Like, what have you noticed this time?
I think clearly there are things going on with, I guess, AI or algorithms that are just scraping lots of data. So I guess if there's more applications, more people in the market, the recruiters or the actual hiring companies are using some sort of tech to scrape those applications, to filter through people, to put them towards interview. And I haven't quite I'm on a seminar with LinkedIn tonight, but I haven't quite worked out those data points, that metadata,
Right.
to be able to cut through. And I'm guessing maybe this will help, right? We were talking earlier on about if I say Beetlejuice 3 times out loud now, Beetlejuice will appear. And maybe if I say, give me a job in brand marketing with a decent budget and a distinctive product proposition, maybe someone will come to me and do it. But
I tell you
yeah,
what,
I mean,
if that
otherwise,
works, the value of this podcast series will go through the roof. If that actually works for someone,
right. Well, just for everyone at home that hasn't got a camera, Beetlejuice has not appeared.
not yet. Yeah, it's odd. And my last chat with David Byrne was he was in a similar boat, and conversation I'm having with other people before I record more of these, conversations for people to listen to. Everyone's experiencing a really similar thing, which is it feels like a buyer's market in a minute, but it also feels like a humanless market at the moment, even though it's human beings at the end of this kind of process, right? And we touched on it last time. I think for me, you can feel quite isolated, and you can feel a little, I guess, just at the mercy of what seems like machines now, just looking to try and place you. And I remember when I've moved agencies previously, I'd call my recruiter, tell her I wanted to move for some reason or other, normally after a pitch had gone badly. And then, a week or two later, you'd have a couple of interviews lined up, whereas that world seems to have completely disappeared. And I don't want to be the boomer in the room going, oh, algorithms, oh, tech. It's not that, but there's clearly a change in the process, and it's affecting a lot of senior people. And I use senior as in we're all 15, 20 years into advertising marketing, so a lot of skill sets, a lot of learning, a lot of history that can be applied. And yet it seems to be that group of people that, and maybe it's LinkedIn's algorithms, but it's that group of people that I'm noticing more and more. So and you're one of those guys, I'm one of those guys, and I'm speaking to an incredible number of people who are all in the same place. So from a day to day, how are you structuring your search, given that it's become more your job than recruiters' jobs these days to find yourself? You can't just sit on your hands waiting for people to find you. So how are you structuring your week looking?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just to build on your point about humanity, and this, I guess, podcast will be cathartic and supportive for other people that are in the same situation. And I would say that is the one thing that has changed. There is a lack of humanity. There's an exchange in everything that we do as humans, right?
Yeah.
I go into a shop, I have some money, and they give me a product back, right? And the disparity in the exchange in this experience at the moment is awful and dispiriting, and it's anti-energy, I would guess, if that's even a term.
Yeah.
So what tends to happen is you've got easy apply on LinkedIn, or you do a covering note and an application. But then, the other day I spent an hour with a HR recruiter on a phone call, actually speaking to a human, and I got a response back in 3 different fonts that had been clearly cut and pasted on someone's phone and sent back saying, sorry, you haven't got through to the next round. And in that meeting, the lovely, funny, charismatic HR person I was speaking to, she said, oh, you at the start, you're quite lucky because there were over 250 applicants for this, and you're the top 10. And I sort of said to her in a kind of dour northern way, well, that's great, but ultimately there's only one winner of this process, so off we go. And but it was bad because there was a human contact there, and she did send me a note saying, oh, this was another job. If you would like some feedback, you just let us know a time and we'll give you some feedback and let you know how you got on for another role. And I said twice on email, yeah, I'm around this day or this day. I'd love to hear what you thought and how I can improve. Nothing back. And I think that karma, and always within Aviva, if I was recruiting, or Wealthify when we were recruiting, I would always make time, because it is that karma. If someone's given of themselves, then you need to give something back. That's how the world works.
No, 100%.
Anyway,
no, it's excuse me. It's clearly, and look, these people, if that person's got 250 applications to read, that and it's there's a time crunch. And as an ad guy, I've spent 20 years bemoaning clients taking things in house, and it feels like the agency world has done that a little bit now, where the kind of the recruiters, the old school recruiters who can help place senior folk are just not going to look in. So therefore, we're all just now part of this weird kind of same just mix of CVs. And it's like you say, there's probably a business in how to create the greatest cut through CV for today's modern CV reading algorithms, because it feels like that's the only thing at the minute. But yeah, the lack of replies from people is soul destroying, and it can really get you. I've noticed in my arc of this journey now, I just don't even give a shit about it anymore, because you clearly it's not personal, but it feels like it's personal, right? When you start going through this process. So how are you managing the crazy kind of instant rejections, or the lack of response in the ghosting, which seems to be the new norm? How are you handling it from a mental health point of view, and how are you kind of keeping yourself going? Because it's a big theme of this. It's like we've got to keep pushing forwards, and we've got to keep trying. So how are you handling it health-wise, mental health-wise?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be honest with yourself. What is it? Is it Aristotle? Maybe true wisdom lies in understanding yourself first before all things, right? And so you get a rejection, you think, hang on, that's awful. They don't think I'm very good. I thought I was very good, and you've got to build yourself up to get these roles in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but there's coffee. There's sleep, there's exercise, there's gardening, there are children, there are your friends, random people you meet along the way, like your good self, Jarrod, like DB. And yeah, there's that. So you just go, oh, which of those levers do I need that's going to help me? I'm going to get on the bike, or I'm going to go and do some gardening, or I'll do something nice for the kids, or, ring my parents, whatever it is, right? And then you just build it up. But what I would say is kind of take a deep breath after you get those rejections. Sometimes they come through in a flurry as well. And just go, right, okay, deep breath. I'm underwhelmed now. I was speaking to an old boss yesterday in real time on WhatsApp, and we were chatting about plans and what we're doing. And he said, I haven't really applied for anything recently because I'm down to the last 2 for this thing. And in the course of the WhatsApp chat, he gets another message from a recruiter that said, you didn't get it. And then he tried to, well, okay, can you give me any reason why? So I've done presentations, been in this process for weeks, tens of hours of preparation. Oh, I'm on the underground, can't speak to you now. And it's like, oh, come on, right? Yeah. So you just have to take a deep breath, as you say. Really good advice. I think don't take it personally, crack on, become hardened, and then just go after it again.
Yeah, for sure. And anyone listening, like there's millions of people listening to this, David. Anyone listening, I think it's an important point, though. It's like it's not personal, because it feels like it is, because you're trying to, go to these places, these companies, and apply yourself and work hard and work nights and work late and work weekends. So you feel like, well, look, I'm all in on this, but you just get like a 3-line email, automated email, or a 3 different font copy and paste email, and that just feels like, well, my effort isn't being rewarded at all there. But I don't think anyone's asking for, gold stars and pats on the back. But I think it's just people need to remember there are human beings at the end of these processes, and there are more of them than there has been in a long time. So in terms of, are you quite disciplined in terms of your approach? Are you, the easy apply button for me on LinkedIn is just a massive red flag. It's like, it's just nonsense. If it's that easy, just let me speak to someone. Like I find it absolute bullshit, the easy apply. It just feels lazy. So are you avoiding any?
Well, no, sometimes, because you just think, well, I can get that done, but then you have to go that extra level of depth, don't you? And go, well, I'll find out who the CMO is, and I'll find out if I know them, and I'll find out who the recruiting manager is, and I send them a little note. And you just have to go deeper, because ultimately, I think it's the same in a lot of markets. If there are high barriers to entry into a market, then you have to have a decent amount of commitment and expertise in order to access that market. Whereas if you have easy apply, anyone can access it. So my great worry is that there are a lot of people out there with no barriers to entry, and I fear that, to your point earlier on, when you used to speak to, I don't know, major players or talent business, you go and see Gary, and he go,
other recruiters are available.
Sorry, yeah, but Longhouse, whoever, and kind of,
they're all great.
Gary would know you, and he would know everyone, right? And he'd go, oh, you're not you're not the sort of person for that sort of agency. You're the
Yeah,
person
yeah,
for
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of agency. And there was a humanity in that, right?
But
Whereas
also,
now there
it
doesn't.
saves time. It saves time and effort, and it saves the client's time and effort. Right at the moment,
Yeah.
it's that kind of filter is. I guess I was so used to that filter being applied to me in the conversations that the recruiters were having that it just seemed to be the norm. It feels like there's no filter anymore, and it's just a fire hose of people scrambling to try and get that one new marketing role or that one suit role or creative role or strategy role at the agencies. And I think that for me is where I've noticed it's hugely changed. So I think you're right. You've got to go a bit deeper. And last when I spoke to David Byrne, he had a good approach, which was always just over networking himself with. If there was a job listed somewhere, his first thing was, can I connect with the CMO or the hiring team? Have a quick, even a little LinkedIn exchange before I even throw my hat into the ring, because I think you start having it becomes so easy to think I have to go for everything because I'm desperate and I've been out here too long. But I think actually being a bit more focused is where you have a little bit more joy and less kind of overwhelming no. If you're applying for millions of things that you shouldn't be, which is where the recruiters would have come back in the day and gone, no, I'm not putting you forward for that it's not right, then you save yourself a lot of heartache and a lot of headache and a lot of stress. So yeah, I think it's
But yeah, I mean, it's like it's sort of personal branding. If you think of it, if we were doing our job for brands right now, we'd think about how can we be more meaningful, how can we be more salient, how can we be more distinctive or different. And to your point, then it's just what can you put in that little LinkedIn exchange, or a piece of video or a piece of audio. Someone hears your voice, they see your face. Kind of there's how can you sort of get them to understand you in a little bit more depth.
yeah, because the CV that they're reading is Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant. Their partnership famously started because Ricky Gervais was so lazy he wouldn't read any CVs, and Stephen Merchant's was the top of the pile put on his desk. I mean, talk about serendipity and just pure luck of the universe. But if Stephen Merchant's had been number 3, you wouldn't have had The Office, and you wouldn't have had extras, and you wouldn't have had all of those things, right? So the CV, there's an element of luck in it, but how can you stand out beyond that? I think it's an important part of this. And I think networking. Go on, mate.
Yeah, I mean, so I just want to. It's a massive passion of mine. I'm helping someone with a book that they're writing at the moment, and I'm writing a blog post on it at the moment. And serendipity. So one of the big theme of what we're talking about is this soulless inhumanity of data scraping, right? And the kind of the mistakes, the happy accidents that happen in culture, quite often cut through in some way.
Yeah.
And so I am. My one example that I'm giving to everyone at the moment, but there are many that I'm collecting, is on Let It Be. When the Beatles were recording that, it's really quiet at the start, and it's just McCartney on a piano singing beautiful lyrics. And apparently one of the reasons there was supposed to be drums on that, but Ringo was in the toilet.
Right.
And so he wasn't drumming at the start. And then when they listened back, they were like, oh, it sounds much better. It's much more profound without the drums on it. And so what I'm looking for all the time, and this is in brands when I work for brands, but also for me personally, is the little happy accents, because that's how I've got my best jobs in the past. Just a random exchange with someone.
No, look, I'm going to be talking to a careers coach, like an exec careers coach, and he has a business where he can help people kind of transition out of one sector into another. And he was an ad guy. He was a recruiter in the ad agency world for like 20 years, and he's now moved into kind of helping people find new avenues to apply their skills. So I'm going to be talking to him in a couple of weeks, and yeah, there's so much value in. What was my point? I've totally forgot what my point was. I'm going to cut that bit out, David. Don't worry.
That's all good.
Yeah, no. I think the happy accidents are a big part of it, and even if 3 people listen to this conversation, David, one of them might know someone who needs someone, right? And that's kind of the intent of all of these things. It's not about anything other than can we help each other raise up a little bit beyond the day to day and try and get noticed a little bit? Because, like you say, our job day to day is normally getting brand cut through or getting people to look at our particular insurance or our particular toothpaste or our particular airline. You know, that's what we're trying to do every single day is, hey, look over here, we've got something you might like. And now we all find ourselves doing it for ourselves. So it's a really interesting exercise. Do you have an ideal role in Dreamland now, given you've been out of work a little bit and you start thinking, well, actually, I should be applying my time and effort into charity or sports marketing? Or do you have like a dream? Well, given if you could pick any job that you apply your marketing skills to, where would you go and work? Like, just because you never know, they might be listening, David. They might be listening. You never know.
Well, do you know what I was thinking before? I was thinking about dream jobs, and I was thinking I've had my dream job many times.
Right.
And the way I've defined that is when I laugh every week so much that I cry. And I was thinking about the people I've worked with that I've done that with. And you make the best work when you're happy and relaxed, right? So
Yeah.
I guess I've had dream jobs. Wealthify was great. I worked at Adidas is my favorite brand of all time.
Right. Nice.
Through serendipity, creative director that I worked with in London was working in LA. He said, "Oh, there's a guy opening an agency in London. Would you like to meet him?" Yeah, okay. He wants you to open an office in London. Great. Okay, you get to work at Adidas, all right? I get to go to LA and Portland and hang out in Adidas. So that was my dream job. There's a hallway in Adidas in Portland for anyone that's into football. And they've got these pillars along this hallway of every World Cup football that has been since 1970, I think was the first branded one. And it's just amazing. And you can touch the footballs and you can, that culture, that depth, I loved. So that was a dream job. I think going forward, my dream job would be very simply a company that is growing, a company that has a decent amount of funding, probably through private equity, a company that's got a useful and distinctive product. And then as long as it's got those things, then you've probably got people working there. They've got energy, good ideas, intelligence, quite progressive. And then you just join their merry band and have a good time. And that's how it worked at Wealthify. And sort of naturally, without the algorithm, those people find their people.
Yeah, look, the people side of it is ultimately, as you get further into your career, it becomes the main thing and the important thing, right? When you start out, for me, it was the agency name. I want to work at X, I want to work here. And then ultimately you start going, actually, I like working with this type of person and these type of people. And I followed that. I've totally remembered what my point was, so I might not have to cut it out. The conversation with the careers coach, they made me do an exercise where it was, how did you get these last jobs? And what was revealing and just I had never thought about it was all serendipity. My entire career had been, hey, these guys have got a thing. Do you want to talk to them? Yeah. And then I knew someone there and you'd meet, you'd have a chat and be like, this is great. It was never targeted. It was always through someone you knew, someone that worked there, someone who had a good thing to say about them, or they were doing some interesting work. Like pure serendipity has been prominent throughout our careers. So that was a stupid point I was going to make.
I buy that. I mean, I think the Uncensored CMO podcast, which
we don't promote the podcast here, David. We don't.
Sorry,
unless he gives us a shout, we'll leave it in. He might give us a shout.
Well, he might. John might. But it's Scott Galloway was saying that luck is by far more important than talent, and he talked about all the tech bros that he hangs out with, right? And he said they're just in the right rooms all of the time, being exposed to the right opportunities. And I suppose what's happening for me and maybe some other people in the Badlands is that because I'm not in those rooms as much, and that might be because of COVID, or it might be because of the algorithm. Maybe I don't go on X enough these days, or LinkedIn. Maybe my content strategy's off. But kind of so you just have to wait for that serendipity and luck. But if you're good, energetic people, then you're impatient, and you realise that, well, I want to be applying these skills and the experience to live brands in real time. Let me at it. I want to help. So that can be a bit frustrating, but that's where you've got to work through the energy, I think.
Yeah, for sure. The thing I've noted, one thing finally, we'll start to wrap up.
Yeah.
Clearly, when I've been speaking to a lot of people about this, even just privately, like kind of loneliness and feeling quite isolated and kind of out of the fishbowl of the ad world or the marketing world is a real thing. So is there anyone that you'd love to give a shout out to that's just been alleged throughout, and could be the wife, could be anybody who's been keeping you going? Is there anyone you'd just like to say a big thank you to?
Well, I tell you what. Firstly, thank you to you for this, because this is
That's
good
very kind.
energy and getting out there. No, it's true. It's true. And DB, who I randomly met on a WhatsApp group, he was in the same situation as me. He's got the same initials, so we chatted. And I think just interesting people are interested and curious about other stuff. I mean, I would kind of, one of my first experiences coming out of this is I met Benj Chilcott, who's a networker extraordinaire. And, one of the first things he said to me, you shouldn't feel embarrassed or weird about networking. And I did, because it was never really
it's not natural for a lot of people.
No, but, he just makes it fun. He's like, well, everyone's got a story, so learn about their story while you've got time. And so he's amazing. If you follow him on LinkedIn, and he is the Kevin Bacon of marketing, as far as I can tell. So just get in touch with him. DB's met him, and then he knows loads of people, and that gives you good energy. So he's a good guy. Loads of people I've worked with. I'm seeing. Do you know what? Right, when you step outside of the world of work, the world of marketing, that little kind of really weird kind of snow dome of marketing, there's loads of interesting things in the world. So just go out and do those. Like this week, I've actually spoken to 3 people that worked into me, I suppose, unofficially doing a bit of mentoring. And that's been great, seeing what's going on with their lives and what they're thinking about. So, yeah, and that gives you energy as well, because you go, actually, I do know something and I can help people. So, yeah, it's all good.
100%. And the networking is clearly a big part of it. And would that be your number one piece of advice to anyone listening who's in this similar position? Like, try and network a bit more, maybe break out of how you've done it before and network a little bit more. It's clearly the thing that I think is going to help the most. And apart from that thing that you can't control, which is luck.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a list. So if you edit this afterwards, then here's the...
no, I'm not editing this.
Right?
This is our live conversation. This won't be edited.
Okay, so here we go, right? Tenacity, optimism, keep on keeping on, right? So just bad things happen, you get rejection, take a breath, off you go again. Get buddies, so get people that are like you, find them, give them energy, help each other out. You're in the same boat. It's not you, it's the market, so get on with it. And they can give you support. Mentoring, so passing it back down, right? Just like get in touch with people that are working into you, because they may have some problems as well. So have those conversations, and that refreshes you and makes you reframe things. I'd say try and use the time, but don't be too uptight about your time. So structure is good, but just don't kill yourself, right? Okay, know what you need and when you need it, whether it be coffee, fresh air, exercise, whatever, right? Stay interesting, and that's it, really.
That doesn't need editing. That's perfect. That's a perfect way to end this. So I think that's great. And you're right. All of those things are super important. And look, I can't thank you enough for coming on and having a chat. It is chaos out there, but you're right. Everyone needs to keep going. So thank you for sharing your experiences. And those tips were amazing there. I hope people listening take them and start thinking about them in their own context. It goes without saying that you're available immediately. Yeah, you're available straight away. So if Adidas and all those guys are looking for a new guy, then give them a shout. Anybody who is listening to this, please share this conversation with your network, because as we've been talking about, the network and the kind of serendipitous nature of life is a big factor in this getting out of the Badlands. So please share this conversation. Let's try and get David top of mind for recruiters and internal talent teams, etc. Give him a follow on LinkedIn. And finally, David, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Have a great day and a great week. And good luck with everything.
I just want to say thanks to you, Jarrod, as well. And my dream is that there's an econometric model that looks at the different channels for people who got jobs. And what will happen is that the Badlands, in terms of that attribution model, will be the number one reason.
Right?
No social posts, no LinkedIn. It's bad. It's a Badlands podcast.
Yeah, all of a sudden it becomes well, I have put podcaster question mark on my little LinkedIn thing now because you never know, right? Serendipity.
Yeah.
Serendipity. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Have a great day, buddy. Thanks, mate.
And you,
Bye-bye.
sir. Thank you. Cheers.